Great, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Stone. Again, my name is Donald Gray. I'm a principal of the Official Collaborative Group Architects. I'm an architect myself, an urban designer, and have been honored to work with the Urban League Jacksonville this far. And we are excited about this opportunity to potentially continue that relationship with you. What we're going to do is we have a slide deck to share with you, but before we go into that, I'll go ahead and give the team an opportunity to introduce themselves and we'll dive right in.
So I'm David Bond, Senior Project Manager at Official Collaborative. A lot of background in mixed use development and project of this scale. Definitely part of it. I'm happy to be part of this project. Working great.
Yeah, good afternoon now. I'm Justin Duncan with Finoni Associates. I'm a structural engineer out of Tallahassee. Look forward to working on the project with you guys and working with Donald and most of the guys on this team on several projects.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Mecca with Kimley Horn and Associates. I'm a civil engineer. I'll be part of the team responsible for the site improvements and any entitlements associated with this great project.
And I'm Ryan Channing, principal, owner in Gainesville, office manager for H2 Engineering. We're the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers for this project, and we look forward to being part of it as well.
Matt Taylor, I'm also with H2 Engineering, but here in Jacksonville.
And also in the room, we have George Spencer, our CFO, Richard Danford, our CEO, which all of you I'm sure know, and Esmond Shakespeare, head of our victim services program, and Faith Danford, as well as there are a couple other people who had to step out, but they'll be in short.
All right, with that, I'll go ahead and dive into the presentation. Am I sharing?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, again, like I said, we're with the Official Collaborative Group and Consulting Engineers, and we are excited to share the work that we've done before, and also some thoughts on the site as we make considerations moving forward. Just a little bit on the agenda. We're going to have basically three main areas: team and experience, project understanding, and a time for questions and answers at the closing. We start with this image to show a couple things. One is the way we give back, and I'll call that our foundation. There in the center, we are at an event called Leon Works. And what this is it's an opportunity for us as architects. It's actually one of my business partners, Erica Hagan, one of our principals. And we essentially are teaching youths in our community about the design trades, the design professions, but also all of the trades that support the professions. And the goal of this exercise was, or this whole event was, to show kids that there are a number of ways to come at doing what we do. And we're excited to do that at this and other events like it, externships and the like. Up top, or excuse me, I should say to my left and to my right are pictures of our team, some of our team members there. And the picture of on the right there on the bottom, our team members visiting one of our sites. But I showed this image, we showed this image at the top because we actually interface with veterans a number of different ways. One way is through the projects that we create and the user groups that either manage the facilities, that will be on the teams that occupy the facilities, the end users, or those that are getting services by the folks that manage those facilities. And this actually is one such one. I have a number of veterans actually that are a part of the Atlanta Police Department, specifically the EOD or Explosive Ordnance Disposal Group and the K-9 team. And these support the security services over at the airport in Atlanta. And that's actually our part of our team on a breakout after a team retreat to visit one of our job sites. And we sort of excited to see this one sort of come out of the ground, but also for all those who serve and will be served by the project. Again, a little bit about our team. We've already done introductions, so for brevity, we won't reintroduce, but wanted to say a couple of things about our team. First of all, we of course have experience working with the Jacksonville Urban League on this project and even this site in particular. And I actually like to sort of remember timeline based on sort of where COVID lands. And so we are pre and post COVID on work that we've done with you. And we're so excited to continue that relationship. But beyond that, we've actually got extensive experience with map planning on several sites and projects of several types and scales. But for the purpose of the conversation today on tight urban sites, and all of the particulars that come with that. Extensive experience with mixed use facilities as well. And this project has many uses, which will make it a unique project and exciting for the community. So we're excited to work on that. And of course, this team actually has worked together on several pursuits, several projects from higher ed, K-12, aviation, just a number of different project types. And we're excited to work together again on this project. And so what we'll do now is we'll go through several case studies that cherry pick out each of the different pieces of program that we're looking at for this project, but also some of the items that we will design for as we move forward on the site and the structure and other aspects of the project. We have been very fortunate to work on medical spaces for both healthcare and also for healthcare for urgent care and also for rehabilitation. And this project actually is really special because this project is the first urgent care facility that's going into Frenchtown in Tallahassee, Florida. Frenchtown is much like the Newtown and Lavilla communities here in that it's experienced pre-civil rights and civil rights eras or historicity and all of the wonderful parts and the challenges that come with the development around communities of color. And for this project to be completed specifically in this community is a really, really big deal. And so it was an important project to us, but also important because we wanted to make sure that this space was designed to be a world-class medical facility, just like any of the other facilities in town. So, we imagine that based on the program, there will be medical services provided, and the scale of the project will be much like the footprint of this project. In fact, actually, even though the facility is about 6,700 feet, the footprint of the urgent care piece actually, which is the first phase, is about half of that. And so this facility and its offerings could easily fit in footprint. Another facility that we've done are rehab facilities, and we've done actually several of them with the Clearway Pain Solutions Group. We imagine, in addition to the sort of healthcare or maybe even mental health care and counseling, there may even be an opportunity for rehabilitation in this space. And so this was a wonderful space because what it did is in addition to the physical therapy floor, there are also exam rooms, offices, and support spaces. And again, these are in a small footprint facility that could work well in the building footprint that we're proposing. We've done, actually, what we didn't include here was we've also done simulation labs for nursing training facilities at a university and actually at 2 colleges. And so sort of that type of sort of technology being implemented in the space is something that we're familiar with. Which brings me actually to this makerspace that we did at FAMU recently, just completed actually. And what this is it carves out a space in a traditional workshop, and brings in the digital aspect of maker spaces. So the laser cutter, the CNC router, the 3D printers. And the reason we show this is because one thing we're finding is because of the self-starting and sort of self-starting team building and ideation that's been sort of fomented in the lives of those in our military. A lot of actual veterans we find go right into entrepreneurship. And one way to support that would be just as you're doing in your program, providing that skills training on the site. And part of that was the development of a makerspace, and we'd be apt to provide that, and our team is capable of sort of designing those spaces. We've also done a number of different sort of cafes and markets. And so this one we've done for an urban ministries group in Atlanta. And this is very similar to the spaces that we presume would be in the facility for the Urban League, because it is a storefront cafe that actually is flexible enough to become a small meeting space for the community as well. And in addition to sort of all of those smaller sort of programmatic pieces and those surgical facility, I shouldn't say surgical, smaller facility footprints, we've also obviously done complete buildings. This being a full office building that includes a lot of flexible training spaces. And this one's interesting because we, in addition to sort of designing and being flexible for the needs of the client group, and this one we're flexible even in the project needs from a construction standpoint. We're able to achieve some cost savings through a hybrid structural system.
Hi, again, Joe Mecco with Kimley Horn, civil engineer. Been practicing my entire career here in Jacksonville. So this project we were showcasing here is the MD Anderson Cancer Center here in Jacksonville. Very near and dear to me, as it had a lot of elements that made it very complicated, but also very rewarding. An iconic building situated in San Marco. We had several issues to work out with public involvement, fitting everything that the hospital wanted to fit onto a very small constrained site by 4 sides, dealing through the entitlement, the permitting process, really flexing our expertise in our local jurisdictions and getting smooth access to entitlements and permits, and also how we deal with the pedestrian experience. This we thought was an excellent example of integrating a much needed use here in our city, but also not impinging upon the pedestrian experience in San Marco, and also making it very user friendly from a patient perspective and access to it. The other thing we did is I feel like we've come up with a very responsible solution to stormwater management. We would work something very similar on proposed empowerment site as well. And as it says there, we feel like we've really delivered the client's high expectations on a very constrained opportunity piece of land.
This case study here is from Florida Southern College in Lakeland, Florida, and we've talked about having this project be a house statement or an AHA statement, one that's talked about around town. So this one kind of showcases from a structural standpoint that almost anything that is dreamt up, we can make it stand up. So this one's similar in size, a 3-story building with office space and large collaboration areas. We are in Florida, so we are designing for high-end hurricane wind speeds. And then this one, as you can see, has an open structure concept with an abundance of natural light. Gives you a lot of space to change and adapt over time for different spaces. And then, you know, the multifunction space with the structure incorporated into the architecture.
And we decided to highlight the Jim Moran Institute for Global Entrepreneurship. It's located in Tallahassee in the middle of downtown on Monroe Street, on a very tight site, zero lot clearance type of facility. And some of the reasons why we thought it was important to focus on this project as a potential parallel or a case study here is because it really does draw a lot of parallels with your program as far as having spaces for collaboration and presentation, you know, also, you know, incorporating the kind of gallery reception area, having that impressive street frontage, I think is really important. And just having a facility that functions and is adaptable to the types of operations that you foresee taking place in the building.
All right, so we're going to transition now to a time of from the case studies to looking specifically at the site. Want to talk through the studies that we've done, where we've landed in terms of the latest study, and some considerations that we've been actually thinking about as we move forward and pivot to an evolved program for the facility. So I think we all know the site. We all know, likely all know that our site is situated, nestled really in the middle of three very historic communities, very historic sort of importance. And I'll just take a moment to say that the importance of that is not lost on us. We've sort of had side conversations about it, but this facility has an opportunity to be a catalyst, not only from a sort of economic development standpoint, but also from a sort of cultural and motivational standpoint for the community. This could be a beacon, and we're excited that we have an opportunity to be a part of making that come to a reality. From a site circulation standpoint, the facilities that were on the site are no longer there, but the pavement is there, which gives us some positives from a stormwater standpoint. However, the main idea here is that there's frontage, unblocked street frontage, all the way around this wedge, which is a really good deal. Even though 3rd Street is going to be sort of off the beaten path, so to speak, we still have that frontage and site access all the way around. So we did these actually are some of the cards from our early planning charrette workshop meeting that we had with this leadership team and the stakeholders. And from that, we actually did a study of the site, which included several sort of early master plan concepts. And I'll quickly go through these. The first concept was this idea of a box in the plaza, meaning a plaza that has the symbiotic relationship with the large, I'll call it a black box type of facility that even has an opportunity to open out onto that plaza. The floating bar is very similar in that it's a mast on top of a glass box, but what it is it's actually a linear bar that looks with glass ends that looks towards downtown and also looks forward into the neighborhood. So it's almost like a fulcrum that connects the two parts of the community. And then the canopy is a glass jewel box that's actually nestled into a sloped park with a covered canopy that sort of ties all of the pieces together. Each one of these actually has cafe offices and public space and an exhibit space on the grounds in different locations. And so to go through these, that first option, as I noted, has a canopy, a plaza area that's covered by a canopy. And the unique aspect of this is that the main floor of the main volume can open up via, say, a hangar door type of situation, to where that space can then become the stage and a proscenium and back of house for events that are being presented under that canopy. That plaza area is surrounded by Veterans Memorial, which has a fountain feature and a memorial plaza. And this one is purposefully placed off of Third Street so that there could be sort of a quiet reflection on this side of the facility that's opposite the traffic noise potential at Kings Road. On this project concept, again, that bar floats above Kings Road. It's parallel to Kings Road, looking east to west with visibility through a large sort of picture window on either side. And this scheme places the Memorial Walk-in Plaza for sort of a variance memorial and potential fountain off to the edge between it and a neighboring residential facility. And again, this actually, the experience here is to sort of to pinch a bit and to surround you with memorial information and potential names, carvings, memorabilia, whatever the like, so that you are sort of immersed outdoors inside of a corridor of memorial intervention. And then, of course, this last concept provides a little bit of a nod to the community in that it provides an open park. You know, I'd imagine so kids really children having a great time with this. And also, but that park actually has a relationship with a memorial plaza right there off of Kings Road. This option puts the plaza on literally on Front Street, right at Kings Road, with the potential for a water feature, such that when you're at that intersection, you can actually interface with it on the, as a pedestrian or in your vehicle. This canopy idea wraps around the glass jewel box and around the park to create a protection at the covered terrace. And what we've done is we've taken each of those three schemes, we had taken those and coalesced some of the more salient ideas into one concept that became the latest master plan concept, but which is still under evolution though, because there are new inputs and new ideas that have been introduced in the new program that's in RFP, which this can evolve to reflect. And that's actually a view, an aerial view of this scheme. What it does is it borrows from the covered plaza. It borrows from the sort of the canopy and the skin to give you that protection there. It also borrows from the picture window that looks out towards the community. And what we'll do is go through each floor to talk about where it was and where it could go. Just some initial ideas. And I'll preface this by saying all of these ideas are just ideas that we've developed in a vacuum for discussion today. But these would require vetting through a community engagement process, which we are very experienced with and are delighted to engage with you on this project. The first floor had initially been conceived as a community meeting space. And so its footprint is developed so that it can be as large as possible, but also as flexible as possible, providing the meeting space that had demountable walls, pre-function, and a cafe space. But some ideas for design consideration. One is for the parking needed for this space, you may consider reducing that footprint a bit. Also, community function, any community function in makerspace would likely be best served on this level because of the service and utility access required for that, of loading docks and the like. And we might look at even an increase in the footprint frontage at that Memorial Park, so there's more room for sort of reflection on the walk through the park. One thing that's not noted here, though, that I'll note is if, in fact, we go to a retail situation on the lower level, you might look at pulling some of that, the stairs and the utility spaces, HVAC, restrooms and the like, further towards the edge of the facility and maybe even outboard, such that the majority of that floor space could be used for each of the tenants, public access, and also service access. The leasable sort of area space on an upper floor would be best served, we think, the medical and rehabilitation services and any type of counseling that would happen. That puts actually the folks being served a little bit away from all of the public that would access either retail or community spaces on the lower level. And also we see this as a potential future phase option because we imagine that the priority would be in service to the veterans, right? So this exhibit space, which could be an immersive digital exhibition space, also auditorium space with seating for lectures, and other type of sort of functions on that level with some support storage space and office space on this level. We see this as a potential future phase option, but likely see this as the priority because of how the interface with the veterans would be providing for celebration of not only sort of the service that they've had been engaged with, but a celebration of kind of who they are even today and having the opportunity for the community to sort of engage with them in real time and maybe even virtually, digitally. And of course, that covered terrace, which I say eliminate for cost, but this would be a great option to keep in if we can because of the visibility that you get on that upper level off to downtown and even deeper into sort of residential communities there. And this was a rendering of where we had landed and it's primed for refinement based on feedback we get from the community engagement activity.
So looking at the site considerations in our initial review, the first thing that stood out to us was a need for parking. Our site plan contemplates about 10 spaces. This site is probably going to need one space per about 200 square foot. So we could be looking at space requirements upwards of maybe 100, which clearly we're not going to be able to have within the constraints of the property. So what we are proposing is a little bit outside the box of looking at opportunities on adjacent properties. There's a church that has some adjacent parking that possibly a shared parking arrangement could be worked out. This is also a node on the JTA bus route, which would make sense to have a lot of ridership, possibly use that means to get to this facility. But however we decide we're going to approach the parking, we're going to need to go ahead and do that through a process that is rezoning. And that is an entitlement level process through the city of Jacksonville. We believe that a planned unit development or PUD zoning would be the best approach. That is a very prescribed type of rezoning where we can pick the attributes that we want to request and negotiate with the planning staff, negotiate with city council. So that would be one of the first things that we would do. We would also want to address the need or how we could possibly provide some privacy on a complementary buffer, which would be on this property's east edge and the adjacent property there to the east, possibly through some opacity screening, maybe some plantings, still to be determined, but those are the two, I'll say, entitlement level items we see on the site that are immediate constraint. One quick note mentioned on our MD Anderson project, stormwater. Don mentioned that the site was previously developed. Our intention would be to develop it at the same level of imperviousness or less. I believe it'll be less in that we do have to provide a code requirement for landscaping. So we'll have some greenery that will be brought in the project, downgrading its impervious ratio. And with that, we believe that we will have a great opportunity for a de minimis or grandfathered stormwater approval for a project like this. So initially, those are the couple of the civil constraints that we see and how we're thinking about going about addressing them.
Some structural considerations for the tight site we have would be, how do we stage and what type of materials do we build a structure out of, given our tight proximity we have. We understand that we may not be able to do all levels at this time, but we do design for future expansion. So if it were built as a two-story structure today, we could design a third and possibly fourth level. So we can account for that during this time. And then, you know, do we want to design it for an enhanced wind speed over base code requirements? We do live in Florida. Hurricanes are more powerful now and more frequent. So we could also look at hardening the building for resiliency.
And so from a mechanical, electrical and plumbing perspective, there's a few things that we noticed that should be considered for this project. Whether it's HVAC equipment that's located on the roof. Because of the tight site, this allows you to maximize your leasable square footage within the building. It also kind of translates some of those noise generating elements to the exterior rather than within your space. So balance that out with some of the accessibility issues that you might have as a benefit within the building is important. Additionally, we want to make sure that the space is designed to be functional and flexible, have that adaptability to give you guys the opportunity to, you know, have a kind of a learning environment in some spaces that may translate then into a more of a marketing atmosphere with a gala type event or some opportunities where you could have fundraising events. Employing other technologies within the building is always important. Of course, you know, we want a strong wireless distribution system, but you know, depending on what you decide to do with technological displays, maybe in your gallery environment or throughout the space, there's a lot of opportunity to explore some of the digital atmosphere that you could create there. Additionally, we want to think about site security issues, whether that's, you know, access control or monitoring via, you know, network camera systems, along with obviously any kind of energy efficiency applications that we could employ here. You know, looking at what green building opportunities we have to, you know, improve those atmospheres and also use that for a learning opportunity for the community.
So with all those things considered, looking at the program and the stated budget of 4.1, how can we make all these things happen? We've got the program, we've got, you know, the site considerations and mechanical, structural. How can we tie all those things together? What does that mean from a number standpoint? The breakdown of the current number in the RFQ would roughly be around $197 a square foot for the stated program, which we believe is on the lower side. And that doesn't mean it's impossible. It means there's certain things we need to consider, certain construction techniques we may need to employ, and then looking at additional fundraising options to help lead that effort. Anything else for that? Or?
Oh, sure, yeah. One thing I'd add is, what we're seeing is the neighborhood of about $400 a square foot for this type of building construction. But there are, that's not necessarily where this will land. It's just what we've seen, but there's a number of options. For example, we could look at doing a sort of core shell option, and you only fit out the piece that you need, and you outsource for healthcare, you outsource for the retail, et cetera. Or we could look at some other construction types. We could look at phasing. There are a number of strategies at our disposal. But what we'll do is we will kick off with an initial programming phase, and then out of that programming phase, we'll have, I think, come into laser focus of kind of specifically how we'll move forward. And then based on that, we can provide, I think, the strategic AV services you need to put the project on.
Great. So once we get through the, I guess, the budgeting costs, the next slide.
I'm sorry, before we go there, one thing I do want to say is we list here the cost controls toolkit, but one thing that would be critical as we're watching our budget is to kind of know where we stand at each milestone along the way. And we just recommend that you work with a CM or maybe a project estimator of some sort along the way. We actually have brought on estimators on our team before in the absence of a CM. A construction manager providing pre-construction services. Well, also, we work with CMs as well. And what that is essentially you get real-time market analysis on what we're proposing, which gives us confidence going into our design phases about where we will land from a cost standpoint.
So in looking at those different design phases, we'll work with you guys to make sure, of course, this is just a kind of a preliminary layout, but the duration of these, different milestones, how we present to those, how we integrate the community engagement, community feedback, and try to task for that, so that as we move forward, get the project going underground through permitting and into construction, that we won't skip a beat and things will stay on task.
All right, so we've come basically right up onto our Q&A portion, gives us about 20 minutes or so. But before we go there, just wanted to reiterate a couple of things. Why choose Fitzgerald Collaborative? Well, it's not on here, but it's because we're the best team. All right, but say that again. Should have led with that. I know, I should have. One and done. But in all seriousness, we are the best team. And the reason is because we've worked with you before. We've got experience not only with master planning the site, the horizontal, but also with the production design, development of facilities that have mixed and sometimes even complex mixed uses in their program. And this team in particular has worked together on several projects over a couple decades. And so we know how to work together. We've worked on restroom pavilions together and very, very complicated ground up additions to aviation terminal additions to airports. And so very complicated projects, and this will be right in our wheelhouse. And so with that, just want to say thank you for giving us this opportunity to present, and we'd be delighted to answer any additional questions you have.
So is there anyone on Zoom that has a question?
Surely we weren't that good.
You are the best.
Oh, thank you.
Hello all. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for your presentation today. I do want to come back to one area where you talked about the green space and the feasibility for making the building more environmentally friendly and get that green certification. Is it actually through the building process, will it actually earn a building certification? A green building certification?
Yes, I want to start the conversation, but then I want to dive into so that have the other disciplines reach out.
I just wanted to say the person asking that question is Errol White, who has been he was our veteran services manager and director, and he is very much involved in this project. So thank you for being with us, Errol.
Very good, and thank you for the question. So we come at this from a number of different angles, depending on what's palatable for the client group and the end user. We can go whole hog lead, full certification. We've done lead projects before. We can go that route. There obviously are additional costs associated with that, but if that's something that we can budget in, we're totally open to it and capable of providing that. But we can also provide a sustainable sort of design strategy without necessarily going with that sort of heavy duty certification process. There are other certification processes that we can apply that get to the sort of the spirit of what they're trying to go for with LEED, but maybe at a more sort of cost efficient way for the end user. And also, by the way, a lot of what is in LEED has already been integrated into Florida Building Code, anyway, Florida Energy Code anyway. And so you start from jump at a really steady footing. But that said, providing for these sustainable strategies is something that, to answer your question just straight ahead, yes, we totally can do, and we should look into, because of not only obviously the sort of sustainability of our world, right? But also for the life cycle cost savings for the client group, and also for the creating a healthy interior environment for all of the inhabitants of the facility over time.
Thank you for that answer.
Absolutely.
Other questions?
This is Harrison Conyers. I have a question, and you may have discussed it and I missed it. Obviously, this is all contingent upon funding, but what's your expected timeline?
Oh, sure. I'm gonna share again, and I'm gonna pull up the schedule. So what we've done is now when you say timeline, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume full project timeline, if that's okay. And what we've done is we started with the schedule that was included in the RFP package. But what we noticed was that the architecture selection has kind of shifted just a little bit. And so what we've done is shifted the schedule forward, trying our best to keep with that schedule. What this does is it allows us, like we noted in our package, somewhere in the neighborhood of the 10-month range plus or minus for the production of the drawing, development of the design and production of the drawings. And this looks at a roughly 2-month bidding and authority, the review by the authorities having jurisdiction, and about a roughly 18-month mobilization and construction phase. Could be less. We could also look at some strategies to truncate that timeline by doing some early release packages, but this is just straight ahead as the crow flies. I'll add a caveat though, that if we have an extended community engagement process, that actually would be in addition to this timeline. And while that can happen sort of concurrently with a programming process, we don't like to have that happen concurrently with the design process, because we really want to know everything, all of the inputs from the community, the user group, the leadership, before we start design, so that we don't sort of have to take steps back, if that makes sense. But does that get at your question?
It does, thank you.
Yes, okay, perfect.
So I have a question. So from the beginning to completion of the building, what's the time frame?
So if we started September 1st, and we're ready, by the way, just let us know, we're ready to start. That puts us right at about, let me see, not about 2 years glasses, but it puts us about 2 years out. So that puts us just before July, just right around June 2027. Now, we could, and again, there are a number of factors that go into sort of that math, but that can be sort of made smaller, that timeline, if we take sort of certain measures to expedite things. But that's kind of what we're imagining based on what we believe the needs of the project are.
Do you foresee any challenges with workers? With
Workers in terms of
The
construction labor?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll answer it one way, but I'd be delighted for my cohorts here to dive in, especially those familiar with the market here in town. A couple things. Obviously, project is from a construction standpoint is as good as the trades that are available and working on the project. But even that pot can get a little bit smaller, pending requirements of your funding sources, for example. So certain federal fundings will have additional restrictions which is not a problem. It's just that that would mean, that would potentially affect the crop of folks who are able to work on it and to sort of get in the queue. Well, you know, America First, for example, potentially if it's federal funding, so.
Davis-Bacon.
Davis-Bacon, excuse me, yeah. And so, excuse me, America First is just for where you procure a product, but Davis-Bacon on your rates, excuse me,
Right.
thank you, exactly right.
So I think one of the things that Donald mentioned earlier is getting a construction manager on board early in the project, because not only do they have a real good finger on the pulse of the market as far as what is available and what materials they have that they've been working with and they see a lot of success with on a daily basis, is you get that feedback at multiple steps throughout the project. So, you know, if you think about a pathway from start to finish, we don't want to veer off the path any further than we have to get constant sort of course corrections along the way, and those insights from folks that are looking at it from both, you know, what the labor availability is, what their subcontractors are telling them, is really important on a kind of throughout the design phase.
Well, we're looking possibly at some city funding.
Mhm.
And I know that they have changed some of their requirements, their purchasing code. And the utilization of underserved communities in the process. Talking about the JSF. So obviously, we would be looking at how we can partner with the city.
Sure.
You know, perhaps as part of their contribution of funding would be providing access to that department. I'm thinking out of the box. It would not only help us, but it would help the city in terms of you know, jobs, et cetera, opportunities, you know, for the neighborhood. So we'll keep that in mind. So.
This is Fred Burley here. Is there any way we could get digital copies of your presentation sent to the meeting attendees?
Absolutely, yeah, we'll do that before we leave.
Excellent.
Other questions? All right, well, I see we have a couple more minutes, but we can give that back to everyone online and in the room, and appreciate you all being here. And we will be having another one of these in a short time, and we will get the word out to everyone about that. So thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.